everyone, it's LJ here. Welcome back to another video. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today we're going to do a little bit of an experiment with some flowers. Now I have a variety of flowers that I've dried myself from my garden, from bouquets that I've bought. I have pansies and anemones, things like that. I have thistles. I have roses and a variety of rose petals. I also have some tulips. So I have quite a few different flowers. There's some of the roses that I have. So these I've all dried myself using silica. If you would like to see how I do that, I'll pop a video up in the corner of the process that I use to dry my flowers with silica. What I thought we'd do today is try and make some floral jewellery, but do it in a slightly different way to usual. So let me grab my tweezers, because when you've dried flowers you don't want to touch them with your hands as much as possible, because the oils on your fingers will get them to react with the resin. So I was thinking, I've got some quite small pansies. So I've got some in different colours, some that are lighter, some that are darker, got some that are very small. Okay. So I've got a variety in here, and I thought it'd be interesting to see if we can create some jewellery. So I'm going to get some out and then we'll talk about how we're going to do it. Okay, so I have got 5 different sets of 3 to do some earrings and a necklace. We're just going to test them because some of them are flatter than others. We're just going to go through and see which will work and which won't, and the best way to do this. So you're going to be learning along with me, and then hopefully whatever mistakes I make you won't need to make. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to be working with UV resin because it is easier, and all I'm going to do, as you can see, is I'm just going to go around the outside of each petal on the back first. And so I'm just sort of doing the outline, filling it in, and we're going to fill the entire back of the pansy, and then we're going to cure it under the UV light and see how it goes. I'm just going to, please, even with UV resin, make sure you are wearing a respirator and wearing gloves, because you do not want this stuff on your skin. While that is curing, I'm just going to have a go at one of the others, and we're going to see how well it looks once we've just coated the back. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few more. Some of them did get folded up, so I'm just going to use my tweezers to unfold them. I'm just going to go over all the backs. At this point it was still going really well, and I think they were starting to look really, really pretty. Okay, so once I've coated the backs, I turned them over to start working on the front. And this is where things started to go a little wrong, because they were not lying flush. I had hoped that by doming the back with the resin, they would then lie flatter. Some of them did, some of them worked really, really well, but the vast majority of them were very wonky. So what I decided to do was, using my little UV torch, was to flash cure them to try and stop the resin from basically all falling off the petals. And then I put them under the UV light to cure once I'd done a couple at a time. So as you can see, my mat ended up getting very messy where resin had dripped off the petals. They were all dry at this point. They had all cured. The resin was fine. I could move them around with the tweezers. But they were very, very messy. So I had a thought about how I could improve the process. Okay, so what I then did was I got out my photo album where I store my pressed flowers, and I thought, we'll give it a go with the pressed because they're already flat. So I got out a couple of sets of these and decided that that would be our best course of action. And then I followed the same process. I put them on their backs, coated the backs with a nice layer of resin, turned them over, did the same to the front, and this worked so much better. Because these flowers were already flat, the resin didn't just run off the sides. So as you can see here, I'm just filling round the outside edges, and then I'm just going to flood the centre. And because these were flat, I could take my time with them. I didn't need to rush as much as I had to with the more 3D flowers. So I would say, as a learning point, pressed flowers, much, much, much better for this technique. They make life so much easier. So yeah, just slowly doing the outside and then filling in the centre. As I've mentioned before, resin goes where you tell it, and it has a good enough viscosity that it will stay, and that's why you get that nice domed effect, because it stays where you put it. So by doing the outside edge first, it just allows me to show the resin where it needs to stop, and then as I add more resin, when I fill it in, you just get a nicer curved dome on top rather than it flooding everywhere, because these are flat. As long as you have a flat surface, resin should only go where you send it. It's only if things are wonky or more 3D that you have a bit more of a challenge with it. So did the backs of those, cured them, they were all beautiful, turned over and did the front. I wish I'd done this at the start. It would have been a much, much easier process. I have learnt a lot though. And yeah, my advice to you is press your flowers, and then they make beautiful, beautiful items of jewellery. I mean, yeah. And doing the same process now on the front, just round the edges, flood the centre. And what I did was I made the front more domed than the back. So the back I did quite a thin coat, and on the front I did a much thicker coat just to give it that nice sheen effect. And they worked out absolutely beautifully, I have to say. Once they were all dry, what I then did was decide to turn them into jewellery. So I got out my little handheld drill, and I just drilled a small hole into each one. Please be aware, when you are drilling into resin, you need to wear a respirator. This dust gets everywhere. You do not want it in your lungs. Health and safety, wear a respirator. After each pair, what I did was I picked up the dust with some tape. Rather than wiping it and risk blowing it into the air, I wiped it up with picked it up with some tape first. Then I wiped over the entire surface and the pieces that I just drilled with a cloth to make sure that all that dust was absorbed and then in the bin rather than floating around the house. Just be aware of health and safety with resin. I know there are a lot of people who don't tend to show the best health and safety, but please be aware of it. So all I did was I added a clip-on bail to the two darker pansies, and then I turned the other two pairs into earrings just using some jump rings and earring hooks. Yeah, it all went in really easily. Just make sure your holes that you drill are near enough to the top to fit your jump rings through. Okay guys, so we are back. I'm going to show you my finished pieces. So, as you will have seen, the 3D effects were a bit of a disaster. However, these are now preserved in resin, and if I put this into any other resin, you won't see all of the sharp edges. It will just blend in together, so those can still be used, not a problem. I could put them into something like this mould, literally as it is, just drop it into the mould, and then the resin will take hold of it, which is good. So first up we have our pansies that I turned into necklaces. They were different sizes, so I didn't want to make them into a set, but I thought they make two very nice necklaces with the cord chain or with the chain. Then we had the little blue ones, which makes the most adorable little earrings. If I put it the right way around, there we go. They're so cute. I absolutely love them. They're gorgeous. And then the other pair of earrings that we have, which are our purple and yellow pansies. And they're just super, super cute. I love them. I love them. I love them. I love them. I had so much fun making these. So yeah, thank you very much for spending time with me today, guys. Keep crafting and I'll see you all soon. Bye.